If you've ever been cast out, put aside, not considered important, uncool, not included in the meeting, this video is for you. And just as the chime rings, that lets me know, and it should let you know, it's time to do something about it if you never have before. Hey, I'm Sir Charles Carey, and I want to talk to you about being on the other side. For a very long time, I thought life was cool just as a kid growing up, like many of us did, until one day I found myself in a very dark place. And I was still a kid. And the thing about it is that at the time, I had no idea of what to expect from life. Everything was, quote unquote, a fantasy mindset, being a kid and then turning into a preteen and finally a teen. And then one day I woke up literally a quarter of a century later, only to find out I was in a position that I could do nothing about. And I found it weird because I put myself in that position, but I'm following this childlike mindset and still having the thinking of a kid. But the point is, at that point, I was no longer a kid. I was in my late 30s. And the reality is that I was a substance abuser, drug addict. You can call it what you want, but it all amounts to the same thing. And the horror about being in that position is that when you're an addict and you've got children, it's like, whoa, I can't get control of my own life. How can I possibly lead or show by example for my kids? And at that time in my life, I had 3 children by 2 different parents, 2 different women. And, I had to face that reality. So I had to sort of grow up quick. What I didn't know is that I was still growing, and that as long as you are alive, you will always be growing. So that was the reality for me, but I had to face it because they didn't ask to be here. And it was irresponsible of me to be a father, especially in the inner city, knowing what was going on in the world, what was going on in my city, New York City, and not being, better prepared. And I came from a good family. We were raised with a religious background. And sometimes I think maybe that was part of the problem. But the overall factor is I didn't fit in. It came a point that I didn't fit in. And when I did fit in, the things I fit in to do led me down a dark path. And when that dark path exposed me, I was in the grips and I couldn't change. So 25 years later, when it came to me that that was my reality and that I needed to do something about it because I was going nowhere super fast. And, this is what happened. I made a decision and I got involved with an organization called Samaritan Village. Hey folks, Sir Charles Carey here. Most people that are watching this content may not even be subscribers. Do me a huge favor and subscribe to our channel, share it and like it. All the things that most people are asking you to do. Now, if you really like what you're getting here, please go to our website. The link will be in the description so that we can give you something free. No obligation. It'll either be the 3 peak tips or a structured breakdown so that you can take advantage of it. And again, there's no obligation. As we continue to build a channel, look for new subscribers and look for the opportunity to pour into other people. We know there is massive value. I've been doing this for quite some time, and all I really want to do with my life is more of the same. Pour into others the way others have poured into me. I work with many people. I've studied from many of the greats, and now it's your turn to get the same opportunity. Thanks a lot. See you. Back to the conversation. And it just so happens that Samaritan Village was one of my favorite Bible studies. Now, I had no idea, excuse me, I had no idea how things would work together for the greater good, right? And the day that I made the decision to face my demons, the psychologist asked me, if I try to help you, will you show up? Because of course, everything is about money. Everything is about a budget. And that budget, what happened was, he held that bed for me so that I can come in and address my demons. And in addressing my demons, I got to a point where I got this. I graduated the program from Samaritan Village, again, which happened to be my favorite Bible story, but it led me to where I am today. And again, if you are anything like me and you've had ups, downs, couldn't see your way out of your situation, you were an outcast, you were not included, you were not part of the cool kids, meetings go on and people kind of like shun you or don't allow you to be privy to the information, then again, this video is for you, because you'll understand that if I was able to overcome my challenges, you can too. And it's not so much about me, but it's about the circumstances that I was in. Once I rid myself of those demons, of course, there were things you have to do to stay on top of yourself, as to not backslide or find yourself in the same situation over and over again. And because I went through this process of admitting and acknowledging that I was no good at partying, at least not like that. I was no good at trying to fit in, as the saying goes. Why you're trying so hard to fit in when it's obvious you were designed to stand out, right? So I realized that the ground that I was standing on was good enough. I needed to find my sweet spot. I needed to find where I fit in. And if you ever wanted to fit in your job, in your career, in your entrepreneurial endeavor, you know what it's like being stuck. And it's no fun being stuck when people are relying on you. It's no fun being stuck when you can't seem to have a gross profit or gain. It's no fun when everything just balances out and it's like the investment you make into things doesn't produce more fruit. There's no true return on your investment of time or money, for that matter. That's where I was in life. I was that way with business. I was that way with my work. I was that way in my personal life. You know, I made just enough to keep going back, repeating the same process. And it was no fun being me. You know, I had to face the fact that I did need to make changes. That's why that day at Harlem Hospital, believe it or not, that was the beginning of my 180-degree shift. This episode is sponsored by our upcoming webinar, 5 Reasons Your Dreams Never See the Light of Day. It's a True Reality Enterprise Ventures, and we want you to get the information and the insight you really need. Look for the link in the description. So, you know, when it comes to gaining traction, when it comes to doing something that matters, I realize even from the entertainment side, it can no longer be about you. You see, partying and hanging out with my friends was about me feeling value from them. I didn't need to rely on that because I was good enough as I was. I just didn't realize it at the time. So I wound up creating habits that put me in a precarious position, and it was not good for my family. And, you know, it's all too common that a lot of people in our communities have the same story. So as it relates to today and moving forward, you know, I graduated the program. Like I say, it was a 6-month program that was supposed to be abolished. In fact, I happened to be in that program. I was part of the last class, literally, technically. Any other kind of lead you want to say, I was the very last class. And after that class, there would be no more 6-month programs, because the thinking was simply, how can people do drugs of any type, and for a period of 6 months, they're going to turn their lives around when they've been doing drugs for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And it makes sense when you think of it that way. But you have to have a strong constitution and a determination, belief, and faith to overcome certain things. And I was determined to do that. And as a result, again, of graduating the program, I relocated, changed my situation, my status, and I wrote books. I've written 7 books. I've been in reality programs. I've programs that are all around the world because of the internet, of course. I've sung and performed and spoken in so many different, for so many different agencies, private companies, fortune companies. It's just amazing that these things happen on the latter part of my life. And if I can do it, what can you not do? And, that's the overall point. We go through things for a reason. Now, I won't say that I was supposed to be a drug addict, but because of my own decisions, I was in that position. But because the frame of mind, the thought came to me, realize where you are, Charles, realize what you're doing and how you're hurting other people, I was able to make that 180-degree shift again. So if I was able to do that, again, what can you not do? You see, a lot of times we want someone to validate us and believe in us, but you're not going to always get it that way. And I think that many times that helps us build up our own character, our own belief, our own faith, to know that it can be done, to know that we're not the only ones that have an interest or that have a genuine desire to do something more than be an addict, to do something more than just have a job, to do something more than what mom and them did. I'm sure what mom and them did may have been the best for mom and them, but I'm from mom and them. I'm not mom and them. I am my own individual with my own dreams and wishes and desires. So I should be able to do things that make a difference as well. So again, if I could do it, what can you not do? And I would like to have that discussion with you to find out what was your biggest drawback? What was your biggest challenge? What was your biggest failure? In fact, what was your biggest milestone? What would you like to make your biggest milestone? If you want to do it, you really can do it. But sometimes you need to hear the right message, meet the right person, and be in the right situation, even if that situation is like mine. It wasn't a pretty sight to be underweight, to have 3 children that expect to see you every day or see you and for you to mean something in their lives, but yet you're not there. You're not there emotionally. You're not there psychologically. You're just emotionally unavailable because you're resting on your own laurels in a negative way. You're leaning in your own space, which is non-productive. So again, I'm Sir Charles Carey, and I would love to speak to you about how you too can become the very best version of you. And again, this came to me totally unexpected. And to be honest, I don't even remember when I received it. And my sister sent it to me, and it was just out of the clear blue. So again, I am grateful, and I would like to share your story and show you how you can change your life if you want to, if you've been on the outside looking in, if you've been the one that no one expected much from, if you've always had a deep desire to be more, to do more, and to have more, because that's what life is all about. We were not put here to just have a job and perish. There's so much more to you, and you need to discover what that really is. Radiate the brain and change the game. I'll see you next time.